We're now going to look at how we export the model into PDMS. But before we do that, I mentioned earlier that we can add foundations and, in fact, any kind of solid element into the model. I've got some foundations on here. I'm just going to switch the relevant layers back on. So I'm just going to select my my layers. I'll just do a shade on it just so that we can see a bit more clearly. So here we've got a plate, a raft kind of element foundation within this area. It's got some slots, or a slot, and some holes through it, and we've got some pile caps down this end here. But any kind of element like that can be added into the structure. Could be floor slabs if it's a building, could be vertical walls with window openings if it's a building with in a more conventional way. But the main thing is the link is much more flexible than just sending steel across into PDMS. Okay, let's remove the shading. Let's go into the export module within Multisteel. Export to link. We've selected PDMS here as our export application. We can link to many other different applications, as you can see. We're just going to click on OK. We're going to create the export file in the root folder of my machine. Okay, we're going to generate the first run of this export. It's going to create a zone called Plat, which is our platform, and it's going to create our first structure. We could have a number of pipe racks on this job, and each one can have a unique name, so we end up with a group of structures effectively. So this is going to be PLO1. So we're going to click OK. When you do an export, it actually checks that everything is named and has a unique identifier, as we talked about earlier. So it's creating the export file. It gives a little summary report at the end. It's exported 479 members. It tells you which zone and which structure name it's going to go into. So we'll click on OK. I'm just going to flick into Explorer so I can see my files. And there's the file that I want to import into PDMS. I'm just going to copy the name of that to the clipboard. Let's go over to PDMS. This is where we were just now. To import it, we use the macro import command in PDMS, which is $M, enter the path, paste in the file name, hit return. Okay, so our structure, we can see part of it at the moment. We just need to zoom to the entire draw list. Okay, and now we're just going to rotate and view our model. So that's a complete representation, an accurate representation of the structure as we had it in Multisteel. Let's zoom into the detail. Points to note are that all the plates are imported, all the elements of the ladder, hand railing, and our foundations come in as well, with the penetrations through the slab. So we've got effectively an accurate model. The key thing with the import is if we just expand our zone here, we can see our structure name. Below that we can see all of our different elements. The steel structure is held within this subframe. So what it's doing is it's actually building the hierarchy, detail hierarchy within PDMS. That's vitally important because it then observes and fits in with the overall database structure of PDMS. The next thing to note is if we just expand this window slightly, zoom in, let's find a member in the structure. Let's find this column. Let's highlight the column. And what this does, it displays all of the properties for that piece of steel. So it has its unique name. We stressed the importance of that earlier. This belongs to a particular structure. It tells us the type of member and then all of the properties for that member, including the identifier, the section reference, the serial size of the member down below. It also generates unique internal numbers within PDMS. These numbers are very important because they're used in other processes in PDMS, such as generating GAs for pipe work and equipment. And so when a model is imported, it generates automatically its unique ID name in PDMS. So that's the first pass of our model into PDMS. Let's just zoom out again. We can highlight the properties for any element in the structure, and this slab basically is generated as what's called a panel. So it's a panel element within PDMS, and it has perforations removed from it, as you can see. Okay, we're now going to look at what happens if we want to add members to the structure. So we're going to go back into Multisteel, add some members, and then do another pass into PDMS. So this is typical of the modification procedure that the interface to PDMS supports, and it just maintains the whole integrity of the model in PDMS as we do that.